My name's MAlex Fowler and my current job title is Energy Leadership Council Senior Specialist at One North East. In terms of the electric vehicles, the types of place where we want to start putting the charging infrastructure is places where people will commonly be parking up their vehicles. So for example, it's train stations where vehicles are going to be left for quite a while during the day. It's offices where again people are going to be working for 7 hours, coming back to the vehicle and it's charged up. And also places you might visit like the retail parks, the supermarkets, and making sure that when you leave that vehicle you can plug it into the charging point, and when you come back to it you'll have enough charge to get yourself back home. In terms of the amount of jobs that could be around these two priorities, offshore wind is a particularly potentially massive growth area for us. We had a visit from the then Energy Minister, Malcolm Wicks, about a year ago now, and his forecast, which kind of ties in with regional data on this, was that the industry could be worth around 30,000 jobs. So that's just the offshore industry alone. Obviously the car industry has been quite badly hit by the recession, but what we've seen over the last 6 months is a really sort of intense period of activity to look at the next generation of vehicles, which is where things like electric vehicles come into it. And there's a lot of new jobs starting to come up around the research and the development to make them vehicles work to the optimum performance. So we're anticipating, obviously, that there'll be a lot of jobs and new businesses created around that, and the supply chain to actually supply the different components that go into these new vehicles will also be a big growth area in terms of job creation in the region. We'll be looking primarily for people who have an understanding of energy and the engineering that goes on around that. But it'll be a whole range of people, and I wouldn't want to kind of focus it down too much on on really specifics. There'll be people required in all the different areas associated with electric vehicles. So just as an example, you might just purely associate electric vehicles with being engineering jobs, but actually there'll be a raft of jobs potentially in terms of marketing and communicating what these vehicles are capable of. There'll be jobs linked to in terms of the electricity networks, making sure that our national grid setup is actually capable of withstanding that extra capacity. So there'll be a whole different range of jobs which will be providing opportunities for young people to get into the sector. Another really key area for the North East is in what's termed microgeneration, and basically that's just a fancy term for new technologies which are installed either on your home directly or in the area in a close proximity to your home. So an example of them technologies is solar panels, which many people will be familiar with, installed onto your roof. And a solar hot water panel, for example, uses the energy directly created from the sun to heat hot water, which when you turn the tap on and you want to wash the dishes, you're using hot water which is generated directly from the sun and is therefore free of carbon emissions and also free in terms of its cost. So again, we're looking at kind of really big development in the North East to make more people aware of the opportunities and to ensure that more people have access to these kind of technologies in their homes. For example, we've just funded a £1 million project called Mobilising Microgeneration, and that is basically about going into communities, putting these technologies, innovative technologies, into people's homes, which can help them save money on their fuel bills, help lower our carbon emissions, and have a really positive impact on the North East. And I think it's important to say there'll be a lot of new jobs potentially associated with this area. So for example, we'll need people to go out and actually install these pieces of technology. People like plumbers, electricians who already have a range of skills will be able to diversify and get involved in the new skills to actually use these technologies. And we'll also need people who are good at giving advice, so can actually go to a householder, speak to a householder and make them understand how the technology operates so that they can actually get the best from that piece of technology. My roots are in Middlesbrough, Teesside. I was born and bred in Middlesbrough. I was educated in Middlesbrough until I went to, when I was 18 years old, I went to university at the Newcastle upon Tyne. Had a really enjoyable 3 years in Newcastle, and where I did a BSc honours in geography, physical geography, which was concentrating on issues which I was really interested in, like environmental issues. Following on from that, I was lucky enough to land my first job, which was in Newcastle upon Tyne. That was working for the UK's leading fuel poverty charity, who are called National Energy Action. And just a little bit about fuel poverty. Fuel poverty is basically where a householder is struggling to actually afford to pay for their fuel bills, where they spend more than 10% of their overall income on actually paying to keep warm in the house and to run their appliances like TVs, etc. And again, my specific area of work within that was looking at new technologies, exciting low carbon technologies, which could help people reduce fuel bills in their house. I was lucky enough again to get offered a secondment opportunity at One North East. One North East are the regional development agency for North East England, and their aim is to basically provide sustainable economic regeneration for the North East of England. One North East, one of their key priorities is around energy and the transition towards a low carbon economy. So it was an ideal time and an ideal opportunity for me to come in and work with a much broader range of technologies. So I'm involved with everything from offshore wind and electric vehicles, as I've mentioned, but right through to things like cleaning the way we generate energy from coal power stations, and even looking at the new systems like generating energy from the tide. So looking at a whole raft of different technologies and how we can get the policies in place to make sure that they make a difference for the UK in terms of creating new jobs, creating economic prosperity for us, and lowering our impact on the environment at the same time.